I, 33M, never thought I'd be posting here, but I'm at my wit's end and could use some advice. My wife Barbara, 31F, and I have been married for 8 years now. We met during our sophomore year in college when we were both part of the same study group for an economics class. I remember being struck by her confidence and the way she could explain complex concepts so easily. She was this vibrant, outgoing girl who could light up any room she walked into. I was more of the quiet, reserved type, always more comfortable with my nose in a book than at a party. Somehow, we balanced each other out perfectly. She brought me out of my shell, encouraging me to try new things and meet new people. I helped ground her, providing a calm presence when her whirlwind energy became too much. We started dating after a group project forced us to spend more time together, and I found myself falling for her quick wit and infectious laugh. Our relationship was great for the first few years. We traveled whenever we could, saving up our entry-level salaries for weekend trips and the occasional international adventure. I'll never forget our backpacking trip through Europe after graduation. We got lost in the winding streets of Venice, shared our first apartment-style Airbnb in Paris, and had our first major fight and subsequent makeup on a rainy day in London. Those experiences shaped us as a couple, teaching us how to navigate challenges together. We got married in a small ceremony surrounded by close friends and family. Her best friend Hazel was her maid of honor, and Hazel's husband Eric was one of my groomsmen. The wedding was simple but beautiful, held in Barbara's parents' backyard. I can still picture Barbara walking down the aisle, her eyes shining with happiness and promise. Hazel and Barbara have been friends since high school. They met in freshman year when they were both trying out for the cheerleading squad. Neither of them made it, but they bonded over their shared disappointment and have been inseparable ever since. They're always going on girls' trips and having weekly wine nights. I never had any issues with their friendship. In fact, I was glad Barbara had such a close friend. Eric and I got along well too, though we weren't as close as our wives. He's a successful businessman, always talking about his latest deals and investments. I work in IT, and while I enjoy my job, it doesn't make for exciting dinner conversation. Still, we'd often get together for double dates or weekend barbecues. Things started to change about 2 years ago. Barbara began complaining that our sex life had become routine and boring. At first, I thought it was just a phase. We'd been together for 6 years at that point, and I figured it was natural for things to slow down a bit. But her dissatisfaction seemed to grow. I tried to spice things up. Date nights, weekend getaways, new things in the bedroom, but nothing seemed to satisfy her. She kept pushing for more extreme ideas, which made me uncomfortable. I'm not a prude, but some of her suggestions felt like they crossed a line for me. Last month, she dropped a bombshell on me. We were having dinner at home, something we rarely do these days with our busy schedules. Barbara had cooked, which should have been my first clue that something was up. She's never been much of a cook, preferring takeout or restaurants. As we were finishing up, she casually suggested that I sleep with Hazel to add some excitement to our marriage. I nearly choked on my wine. I was shocked and immediately refused. I told her I had no interest in being intimate with anyone else, especially not her best friend. How could she even suggest such a thing? Barbara seemed disappointed but dropped the subject for a while. However, over the past few weeks, she's been bringing it up more and more frequently. She keeps saying things like, "Hazel thinks you're attractive," and "it would just be physical, no emotions involved." I've continued to refuse, but her persistence is wearing me down. Yesterday, things came to a head. Barbara cornered me after dinner and started pressuring me again about sleeping with Hazel. She wouldn't take no for an answer, and I felt backed into a corner. In a moment of frustration, I blurted out that I had already done it. I don't know why I said it, maybe to shock her, maybe to get her to stop asking. Either way, it was a lie. Barbara's reaction wasn't what I expected. Instead of being upset or jealous, she seemed relieved. She started asking for details, which I awkwardly fumbled through. I felt terrible lying, but I didn't know how to backtrack. Now I'm in a mess of my own making. Barbara thinks I've slept with her best friend, and I have no idea how to handle this situation. Should I come clean about the lie? Should I tell Hazel what's going on? I'm worried that if I tell the truth, Barbara will just start pressuring me again. I never thought our marriage would come to this. We used to be so happy together. I remember our honeymoon in Hawaii, how we spent hours just talking on the beach, planning our future. We wanted kids, a house with a big backyard, family game nights. Now it feels like we're strangers living in the same house. I've tried talking to Barbara about our issues, but she always deflects or changes the subject. It's like she's a completely different person from the woman I married. I miss the way things used to be, but I don't know if we can ever get back to that. Looking back, I wonder if I missed some signs. Barbara started staying out later about a year ago, claiming she was networking for her job in marketing. She also began paying more attention to her appearance, buying new clothes and spending more time at the gym. At the time, I was proud of her for focusing on her career and health. Now, I can't help but wonder if there was another reason. There was also an incident about 6 months ago that I had almost forgotten about. We were at a dinner party with Hazel and Eric, and I overheard Barbara and Eric having what seemed like an intense conversation in the kitchen. When I walked in, they quickly separated, and Barbara looked flustered. She brushed it off as nothing when I asked about it later, but now I'm second-guessing everything. I'm lost and confused. I love my wife, but I don't understand why she's so set on this idea. Is there something wrong with our marriage that I'm not seeing? Am I being unreasonable for not wanting to sleep with her friend? Any advice would be appreciated. I keep thinking about the early days of our relationship, how we used to stay up all night talking about our dreams and fears. Barbara wanted to start her own marketing firm someday. I wanted to develop innovative software that could help people. We talked about traveling the world together, maybe even living abroad for a while. Now, it feels like we can barely have a conversation that doesn't end in an argument or uncomfortable silence. Part of me wonders if this is just what happens in long-term relationships. Do all couples go through phases like this? Or is there something fundamentally broken in our marriage? I love Barbara, or at least, I love the person she used to be. But I don't know how to reach that person anymore. I'm worried about what this situation might do to our friend group as well. Hazel and Eric have been our closest friends for years. We've celebrated holidays together, been there for each other through job losses and family deaths. If this blows up, it's not just my marriage at stake, but those friendships too. I don't know what to do next. Should I confront Barbara about her strange behavior? Should I talk to Hazel about what's been going on? Or should I just pretend everything is fine and hope this all blows over? Any advice would be greatly appreciated. I feel like I'm drowning here, and I don't know how to save my marriage or myself. Update 1. It's been a week since my last post, and things have taken an unexpected turn. I want to thank everyone who commented and offered advice. Your support has been invaluable during this difficult time. After reading your comments, I realized I needed to have an honest conversation with Hazel. I couldn't keep living with this lie, and I needed to know if she was aware of what Barbara had been suggesting. I met Hazel for coffee at the little cafe where we used to have double dates when we were first married. As I waited for her, I couldn't help but remember happier times. The four of us laughing over shared desserts, planning group vacations, celebrating promotions and birthdays. It felt like a lifetime ago. As soon as Hazel sat down, I could tell something was off. She looked nervous and couldn't meet my eyes. Before I could even bring up the situation with Barbara, Hazel blurted out, "I need to tell you something." What she told me next left me reeling. Apparently, Barbara and Eric, Hazel's husband, have been having an affair for the past 3 years. Hazel found out about 6 months ago, but had been trying to work things out with Eric. She said she'd been suspicious for a while. Late night, work meetings, secretive phone calls, unexplained expenses, but hadn't wanted to believe it. I felt like the ground had dropped out from under me. 3 years, half of our marriage. All those times Barbara was out with the girls, or working late. She was with Eric. The vacations she took alone because I couldn't get time off work. The weekends she spent helping her mom. It all started to make sense. Hazel broke down crying, apologizing for not telling me sooner. She said she'd been torn between her loyalty to Barbara as a friend and her belief that I deserved to know the truth. What finally pushed her to confess was Barbara's suggestion that I sleep with Hazel. Apparently, Barbara had approached Hazel with this idea, claiming it would even things out and make their betrayal less severe. As Hazel talked, memories started flooding back. I remembered a business trip Barbara took about 3 years ago. She had been so excited about it, saying it could lead to a big promotion. When she came back, something seemed different. She was distant, distracted. I had chalked it up to stress from work, but now I wondered if that was when the affair started. There was also the time last year when Barbara insisted on redecorating our bedroom. She bought new sheets, new curtains, even a new mattress. At the time, I thought she was just going through a nesting phase. Now, I felt sick thinking about the real reason she might have wanted to change everything. I was furious, hurt, and overwhelmed. Everything I thought I knew about my marriage, about Barbara, had been a lie. I thanked Hazel for her honesty and left the cafe in a daze. When I got home, I confronted Barbara. At first, she tried to deny everything, but when I told her Hazel had confessed, she broke down. She admitted to the affair but tried to justify it, saying she felt neglected and unloved. She claimed that her suggestion about me sleeping with Hazel was an attempt to save our marriage, to make things fair. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. The woman I had loved and trusted for so long was trying to manipulate me into accepting her infidelity. I told her I needed space and left to stay with a friend. Over the next few days, I did a lot of thinking. I remembered how Barbara and I used to talk about everything, how we'd stay up late sharing our dreams and fears. I thought about the day we bought our first house, how excited we were to start our life together. All of that felt tainted now. I also reflected on the past few years, how Barbara had become more distant and critical. She'd often make comments about how I didn't make enough money or wasn't ambitious enough. I realized now that she'd been comparing me to Eric, who owns a successful business. I thought about all the little moments that should have clued me in. The way Barbara would tense up when I touched her phone. The sudden interest in going to the gym at odd hours. The new friends she never introduced me to. It all pointed to a truth I hadn't wanted to see. After a lot of soul-searching, I've decided I can't continue this marriage. The trust is broken, and I don't think it can be repaired. I've contacted a lawyer and am preparing to file for divorce. Hazel and I have been in touch. She's also decided to end her marriage to Eric. We're both hurting, but it's been helpful to have someone who understands what I'm going through. We've shared memories of the early days of our marriages, trying to pinpoint when things started to go wrong. It's painful, but also cathartic in a way. I'm still processing everything, and some days are harder than others, but I know I deserve better than a marriage built on lies and manipulation. I'm not sure what the future holds, but I'm determined to move forward with honesty and self-respect. Update 2. It's been a month since my last update, and a lot has happened. I want to thank everyone again for their support and advice. It's been a difficult journey, but I'm starting to see a light at the end of the tunnel. Hazel and I have been working together with our respective lawyers to gather evidence of the affair. We found credit card statements showing hotel bookings, text, messages, and even some emails where Barbara and Eric discussed their relationship. It was painful to go through, but it strengthened our resolve. One particularly difficult discovery was a series of photos from a trip Barbara had told me was a girls' weekend with Hazel. The pictures showed her and Eric at a beach resort, looking very much like a couple in love. Seeing those images brought back all the hurt and anger I thought I was starting to move past. We both filed for divorce on the same day. Barbara and Eric were blindsided. They didn't expect us to find out about their affair, let alone take such decisive action. Barbara tried to convince me to reconsider, promising to end things with Eric and go to couples therapy. But I stood firm. The trust was broken, and I knew I couldn't live with the constant doubt and suspicion. The divorce proceedings have been messy. Barbara is contesting the division of assets, claiming she's entitled to more because of her emotional suffering. It's ironic, considering she's the one who caused all this pain. My lawyer assures me we have a strong case, especially with the evidence of her infidelity. Hazel and I have been supporting each other through this process. We meet regularly to discuss our cases and just to talk. It's been helpful to have someone who truly understands what I'm going through. We're both dealing with a lot of anger and hurt, but we're also finding strength we didn't know we had. Last week, we had to go through our old photo albums to find documentation for the divorce proceedings. It was a bittersweet experience, seeing all those happy memories now tainted by what we know. There was a photo from our first Valentine's Day as a married couple, where Barbara had surprised me with a homemade dinner. Another showed the four of us at a New Year's Eve party, our arms around each other, faces full of laughter. It's hard to reconcile those images with the reality of our situation now. I've moved out of our house and into a small apartment. It's been an adjustment, but it feels good to have my own space. I'm rediscovering hobbies I'd let slide during my marriage, playing guitar, hiking, even trying my hand at cooking. It's like I'm getting to know myself again. Work has been a welcome distraction. I threw myself into a big project, and my boss has been understanding about the occasional need to take time off for legal meetings. My co-workers have been supportive too once I explained the situation. As for Barbara and Eric, last I heard, they're still together. Part of me wonders if their relationship will last now that it's out in the open. But honestly, I try not to think about it too much. They made their choices, and now we're all living with the consequences. I'm not going to pretend it's been easy. There are still days when I wake up and for a split second, forget everything that's happened. But then reality sets in, and I have to face the day. But each day gets a little easier, and I'm starting to look forward to the future again. One unexpected outcome of all this has been reconnecting with old friends. People I had lost touch with over the years have reached out after hearing about the divorce. Last weekend, I went fishing with my college roommate for the first time in years. It felt good to remember who I was before all of this happened. For now, I'm focusing on healing and moving forward. I'm not ready to think about dating or new relationships yet. I need time to process everything and learn to trust again. But I'm hopeful that someday, I'll find someone who values honesty and commitment as much as I do. I've also started journaling, trying to make sense of everything that's happened. It's helping me process my emotions and see patterns in my relationship that I might have missed before. It's not always easy to confront these truths, but I believe it's necessary for my healing. To anyone going through something similar, hang in there. It's a tough road, but you're stronger than you think. Trust your gut, surround yourself with supportive people, and don't be afraid to stand up for yourself. You deserve happiness and respect. As I look towards the future, I'm trying to focus on the positives. I have a chance to rediscover myself, to build a life that truly reflects who I am and what I want. It's scary, but also exciting. For the first time in a long time, I feel like I'm in control of my own story.